Good afternoon. I've just been spending the afternoon writing, and as I always say, whenever I'm moved to send out one of these videos, I just do it. Don't necessarily know what's coming up, but always heed the call. So I've been sitting out on my patio today. It's beautiful out here in Sacramento today. It's about 60, probably 65 degrees. I have my 2 fire pits going, and just makes for a very nice day to be outside and feel grounded and to write. So that's what I've been doing. And it's interesting. Today I've been writing about forgiveness and writing quite a bit about it, as a matter of fact. And one of the universal truths is about everything, but also in that unconditional love is that of forgiveness. And I guess it's a component of, or works in tangent with thing. In order to have unconditional love, you need to have forgiveness, right? Because we're all human. We're all human, and we all err. We all make mistakes. I always like to say that we are never defined by we're never defined by our limitations unless we allow ourselves to be. So we never get it right all the time, right? So just as we err, we and expect and would hope for other people to have forgiveness for us, is very important for us to offer that and have compassion for other people too, who don't always act in the most evolved manners. So today's, it's kind of a cliche that we hear that forgiveness is not for the other person. It doesn't necessarily excuse or condone what they do. Forgiveness is for ourselves. It frees us. And, a lot of times when you hear that, at least for me, it's kind of like wah, 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 like Charlie Brown and the Teacher, right? Because forgiveness is something that I have struggled with in my life. I can hold on to some stuff. But learning that really, really, when I do that, it costs me. Other people are off living their life, doing what they're doing, not even thinking about that. And I'm holding on to anger and wishing people dead and all kinds of stuff because I can hold on. But what life has taught me as I grow older and older and growing into my more graceful years is that, anger is a bitch. Anger can tear you up on the inside. And so holding on to anger and lack of forgiveness, really and honestly, it only hurts you. At the end of the day, everybody's just trying to figure themselves out and sort themselves out. And I've been experiencing some things of late that life has set up that opportunity for me to offer forgiveness for people who have not necessarily been there the way I would have liked them to. Which brings us to another subject of releasing and not being attached to expectation of other people, because everybody's living their own journey and their journey is far different from ours. And so no one is ever going to look at things from the same lens as you. As they say, the proverbial, gather 50 people in a room and have them all observe an event. There's going to be 50 different ways that people experience that. Each person, based upon their life experience and their lens, they're going to observe that in a different way than the next person. So in that same understand what our situation is the way we experience it. So it sets us up for disappointment, plants the seeds in very, very fertile ground for us to become disappointed. And I was talking to somebody yesterday about that. Um, and he was telling me that, is the value of releasing expectation of other people. And I know that intellectually, but experiencing it sometimes on an emotional level can be a little tough. But it's we journey this life in order to have these experiences that sometimes tee the same things, the same situations, the same opportunities up over and over for us to get these lessons. And that's what's been happening with me. And so I'm just thinking that, I'm no different than a lot of other people. So maybe I'm passing along my experience and hoping that it can benefit someone else too, because I've prided myself on being a very, very, I always show up for people. I am one of those ride or dies. I'm very loyal to those whom I care and love a great deal for. I will do anything for you. And it's not an effort for me to do that. But when people are living their journey and they are going through their trials and tribulations, it's not always possible for them to show up to me, for in the way that I think that I need them to. And really the lesson has been over these past few days is to recognize that it is what it is. It doesn't mean that they don't love me. It doesn't mean that that they don't care, but it's just where they are in their journey at the moment. And so in me looking at this and me experiencing it, sometimes when I've recognized some things about myself that sometimes I stay so busy doing that and being that for other people for what I gain from it. And it comes from a pureness of heart that I do it. But I'm learning to say no when I can't. And that was a real lesson too within this past week, that I really couldn't show up for somebody who's very important for me. In fact, two people, as much as I wanted to, I just had to self-care and just say no and take care of me. And that's so different. It's so different than anything that I've ever done. But at the end of the day, I'm no good to anybody if I can't take care of myself. And so I gave myself that permission. And at first it was a little uncomfortable. But then at the end of it, after I had some time to step away from it, I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did, because I would have been a shell of who I normally am showing up. I would have been like a dead body propped up had I from it probably the week later. So I guess it comes down to just being honest with yourself and working within your limitations and offering people that compassion to do the same and not having expectations as far as what you think people should be doing for you, and not doing things with the expectation of receiving X, Y, or Z back. You do it from a place of love. You do it from a place of willingness. You do it from a place of pure honoring the love that you have for that person. And you just do it and let it go and don't expect anything back. And I think that's the best way that we can navigate this life and do it in a way that you're not feeling some sort of way about it, right? So getting back to forgiveness, sometimes we just need to actions as being, I don't think people are mean and nasty, hateful and malignant as a baseline. I don't think people try to be that way. I think that they are just operating from their limitation. And the best thing that we can do in that moment is to acknowledge that, pull the lens back a little bit and see but they're coming from a place of pain. And a lot of what they're doing, unevolved shit, is from a place of pain. Another lesson that I've been experiencing and acknowledging and living and honoring, that we can never fault someone else for how they sin differently than we do, right? Because we are imperfect beings at best. So, forgiveness and unconditional love. Just think of if we implement those two truths, because they're two of my universal truths in my book, into your life, and how much easier. Just after having, a few weeks of really a tough time, just embracing and wrapping my head around those two concepts, living it, implementing it into my life, and not just being a concept that I'm writing about, is offering me a great sense of peace. Today is the first day of peace that I've had in a very long time. So I just thought I would share this message with anyone else who could benefit from it. And just remember that we're all flawed. We're all just trying to figure it out. No one knows any better than the next person, and one's journey is different than another's. So who are we to judge? We all just need to love and support one another along that journey, and try to grow from our two paths intersecting, and that there's always something to grow and learn from, whatever interaction that you have with someone, whether it's a joyful one or what we perceive as a shitty one. Actually, nothing's a shitty one. It's just an opportunity to expand. So changing our perception of how we look at things is key, is paramount in us having a greater sense of joy and happiness in our life, a greater sense of understanding and compassion for others, and just offering you a greater sense of peace in your life. So that's my message for the day. Hoping that someone can benefit from that. Write, if you're so inclined, any sort of notes or thoughts that you have about this message today. I'd appreciate hearing some feedback. And just know and no matter how shitty things may be teeing up in your life, know it's all for a reason. And look for the lesson in it, look for the opportunity to grow, and you're going to be much better off as you move forward. Namaste, everyone. Have a great, great week, and happy Monday.